We're good to go.
Okay, Ray, you can start with introducing yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Ray Samuelis, and I'm the Burlington County Agricultural Agent here in Burlington County.
Yes, my name is Albert Ayeni. I'm the Ethnic Crop Specialist at Rutgers School of Environmental and Biological Sciences and the New Jersey Ag Experiment Station in New Brunswick.
My name is Steven Specka. I'm a local farmer, recent Rutgers graduate.
All right, go ahead.
Thanks, gentlemen. Our first question for the panel is there a way to test the Scoville heat units in the field?
Very, very good question. There is no practical way of doing the test under field condition to state how many Scoville heat units a pepper type may have. But people who have had experience with tasting peppers, by the time you take a bite, you will be able to compare it to some other ones you have had before, and will be able to place that pepper on a scale of whether it is extremely hot, or it is mild, or no heat. To be able to relate that to Scoville heat units is a difficult thing under practical conditions, because the way the Scoville heat unit is determined is by using a medium as a solution where you mix the pepper, you dilute it until it does not have any heat taste at all, before you can say, okay, you have to use so much water or so much solution to bring that heat down to nothing. And this varies from one pepper type to another pepper type. It's not something that can be easily done under field conditions, but experienced people will be able to place a pepper like habanero in its right position, a pepper like many cayenne pepper, much softer than habanero. You'll be able to say it probably belongs to that category. And if it is in the jalapeno serrano group that we consider to be mild, you would also be able to say this is the group that you think it belongs to. And generally speaking, the extraordinarily hot ones, we do not expect people to even taste them under field conditions because they are brutal.
Our next question is, why would a grower use white plastic mulch versus black plastic mulch when growing peppers?
Well, I'll take this one. Specifically, the later season peppers, like we grow, white mulch keeps the soil temperature lower. It's like having a asphalt parking lot in the summer. It gets really hot. It's like a heat sink. Whereas the white reflects a lot of that summer sun away. It keeps the soil temperature lower. Plants can't really grow well, and I believe it's over 90 degrees. So as long as you can keep the temperature lower, it's beneficial to have white plastic. So it's marginally more expensive than black, but it's worth it. It's well worth it.
Our question from Mr. Speck is, do you direct seed transplant from greenhouse grown seedlings or buy plugs?
Can you repeat it, please?
Do you direct seed, grow transplants, or buy plugs?
We buy the seed and have we contract a grower to grow our early transplants in a heated greenhouse. We don't have one at the moment, so we buy the seed, have transplants grown, and then we transplant the pepper plants into the raised beds when we're ready. It gives it a jump on the season, definitely. I don't think many people direct seed peppers.
May I add to that information? Something we have learned about growing peppers is that if you use old pepper seedlings, peppers that are probably about 10 weeks, 12 weeks old before you take them to the field, they seem to have greater capability to yield more. This is talking about the habaneros especially. If you grow your seedling to about 8-week-old and transplant, you are not likely to get as much yield from that 8-week-old transplant as you will from a 10-week-old, 12-week-old, or even older transplant. It seems there is a way the pepper starts very, very early in the field when it has put on so many weeks in the greenhouse. It reaches that stage of flowering a little bit earlier and then starts producing much earlier. So it will be able to reach that maximum potential before the season runs out. That is the experience we have had. So we do recommend that using older seedlings seems to pay more than using the young seedlings.
Comment on the Scoville unit question too. I've worked with Padron peppers, which I discovered in Spain hiking through the Pyrenees Mountains. And what I found with them is that the heat units, Scoville units, are very much dependent upon the size of the pepper. If you did them 1 inch to 1.5 inches, they're mild. And in fact, these peppers are known as Spanish Russian roulette, because every once in a while you'll get one a little bigger and it'll be probably 30,000 Scoville units. The ones 1.5 inches or less are about 1,000 or 2. So you make like an assortment of peppers and the people eat them, and it's very much part of their culture. And after one season of growing them, I could determine by just looking at them which ones were hot and which ones weren't without even tasting them, because you get an eye for it.
Yeah, may I also corroborate what Ray has just said? We know for sure that peppers, practically all the peppers that have heat in them, have a progression in developing the heat. At very young stage, they are relatively mild. Some of them may have no heat at all. And then as they continue to increase in age, growing bigger and bigger, the heat component continues to increase. And we know that jalapeno, for instance, will develop we start developing the heat after they're about 1 inch long. After 1 inch, the heat will start developing very, very fast to a maximum level by the time the fruit has reached the maximum size, before it starts increasing in maturity and probably getting red later on. Some of the jalapenos, we have also known that the Scoville heat units actually decreases when they start ripening. So it has a peculiar characteristic. The heat unit is highest when it has reached maximum green maturity. As the pepper now starts moving from green maturity to ripening, turning red or yellow or whatever color it is, it starts losing that heat. And the red ones become less hot than the green jalapeno. But it is the reverse in habaneros and some other types of peppers. The heat increases as the pepper becomes more and more ripe.
Can I say one more? The transplants.
Yes.
Just adding to what Albert had said, using an older transplant, the pepper plant itself is probably more resilient. I mean, when you're transplanting these things, it's the heat of the summer, so you're taking a plant that was in a tray that you're watering every single day, and you're putting it in the ground, and it's not getting that water every day. You're using a bigger plant.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot more resilient. A little tiny one, just a twig pepper plant, when that goes into the plastic mulch, if it leans up against the plastic hole, it can get sun scalded. So the bigger the transplant you can get, the better. But it will cost you more to have a bigger transplant size.
In line with what he said too about the transplants, another very critical thing is hardening them off well, because the wind is brutal. I mean, I know that. I've defoliated the whole fields, take every leaf off them because they were hardened enough, you know. So if you get an older transplant, the likelihood of it being hardened off more is better.
Hardening them off is basically like you prepare the transplants for the field. You don't water them as often. You expose them to more direct sunlight. You get them into the
Cold.
load all your transplants on a wagon, pull them outside, and let them be outside before you get them into the field.
Good, thank you. We have another question from the Eco Complex for Mr. Specka. Do you use deer fencing?
We don't use deer fencing. It's expensive. We haven't gotten there yet. Someday I hope to have some. There are a few chemicals you can use. I've never experimented with them, but I've heard that Deer Away works pretty well. I hunt. I have some friends who also hunt with me, and I use a depredation permit, and I've found that works very well for limiting deer populations. If you're trying to reduce the population, you need to have your hunters shoot a lot of does. It only takes one buck to populate a whole herd of deer, but you reduce the number of does and it controls the population a lot better.
Fortunately, too, if you're a preserve farm, they just introduced a new program to supply deer fencing that you can apply for if you're preserved. If you're not,
That deadline is coming up very
shortly, yeah, and it'll provide the fencing. It will not provide the post. So, but hey, every bit counts.
Oh yeah, I missed something.
We have a question from Kate May. What most likely causes the weather cracking or the corking in some of the bell pepper and other pepper fruit?
Well, generally, I always consider them growth cracks where it gets a little too dry and then a big flush of moisture, and they expand quickly from the inside and split them.
Is it a species related, variety related more than anything else?
I'm not sure of. Do you have a feel for that?
Yes, the crack is something that we have come to really recognize as something we must pay attention to. With jalapenos and other types of capsicum annuum, we know that the Mexicans love the ones with cracked skin. They prefer those ones to the smooth skin. Most of us will probably go for the smooth skin. But the Hispanics, for whatever reason, love those that have cracked skin. And what we have come to see, there is a big difference from one type of pepper to another in their susceptibility or their response to cracking. Some of them will crack, almost the whole skin will be completely cracked. And there are some that the skin will be completely smooth. So what is working for us at Rutgers is that we now have material that would appeal to a cross-section of ethnic groups. Those that love the cracked jalapeno, we have them. Those who love the smooth jalapeno, we also have them. So it is variety or cultivar dependent, how susceptible these peppers may be to the cracking. We have seen that. We have taken very, very close look at that, and we are happy that we have both, because the Hispanic population is quite huge, and they love the cracked jalapenos. But the other populations don't really appreciate that cracked skin pepper that much.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Somerset County about staking. Do you recommend staking peppers, and where would one buy or purchase their pepper stakes?
I've never staked them before, but this year I saw why somebody would want to. When you have a fully mature pepper plant, it can be quite large and have many pretty big branches, and when it's loaded with fruit, the wind will come through and it'll knock the plant apart, and sometimes it'll break off branches. Staking anything takes a lot of time. I mean, hammering a stake is nothing, but hammering 10,000 stakes and tying them all takes a lot of time. So if you can get away without staking them, I would try that. Getting stakes, Nolt's Produce Supply in Hershey, Pennsylvania. That's where we get ours. They're pretty reasonable. They're Honduran pine. I'm not really sure what that is, but they last for years and years, 20 years plus. So they're a worthwhile investment. Sometimes you can get them used. For the peppers, you probably don't need very tall stakes, but keep in mind you do have to drive them into the ground a little bit. Always go with a bigger size than you think you need. Just makes it
The other
easier.
problem with the stakes too is the fact that if you're using them multiple years, which hopefully you would, they have to be sanitized because the bacterial leaf spot of peppers is a very devastating disease, as Andy would attest to. And so you have to sanitize them with some type of sanitizing material like chlorine or oxidate materials or whatever, so you don't spread it. Because every time, it brings another whole aspect to growing the plants. Is when you have to tie them, you have to touch the plants, and you got to be careful the time of day you do it, because if you do it when there's dew in the plants, you're opening yourself up to spread diseases. So you got to wait till they dry off and then tie them and handle them the least amount possible.
Yes, may I also quickly add that at Rutgers we have had situations where we have to stake some of our peppers. As we are doing our breeding program, we have peppers that are really huge, and when the time for fruiting comes, they carry so much fruit that any small wind can blow them on their side, and they fall over, and you start losing some of those fruit to rotten. So we have had to stake, but at Rutgers, I don't know where our greenhouse manager gets their stake from, but they buy some bamboo stakes. Bamboo stakes, and some of them can be used over many years, and as Ray has said, it's good to always sanitize them at the end of the season before you put them into the next crop, because they can carry some disease situations. So staking, what we have done at Rutgers initially when we started our breeding program with Professor Tom Orton, who is at our research station in Upper Deerfield. The peppers we started with, some of them were as tall as about 4 feet, 5 feet tall. And through his own breeding expertise, he was able to move those ones that are so big out of our germplasm and bred for those that are small size peppers that wouldn't be victims of falling on their side anytime there is a wind problem. And now we have relatively short, robust pepper types that fruit, their uniform fruiting will make the plant relatively stable and not susceptible to falling one way or the other. So we have, in the last 2-3 years, we have not really had much problem with staking because the plant size has been reduced, so small size, and the fruit yielding pattern makes the plant very, very stable and can withstand a little wind incident.
Question from Kate May for Mr. Specca. How do you price your pick your own? Per pound or by container?
On our farm, all of our pick your own crops are by the pound, except for things like heads of cabbage. By the pound, we've found that you kind of have to look past what size they pick sometimes. You know, sometimes they'll go out there and they'll get a lot of very small eggplant or peppers, and it can be frustrating, but you need to remember that's what your clientele is wanting, so you need to respond to that. We go by the pound, not the container. That's for pick your own. For retail at our retail market, we do everything either by the piece or by the peck or by basket. So by the pound's nice. It doesn't matter if it's green or red. You know, same price really. It's frustrating because red's harder to get, but by the pound is a good way. And don't be afraid to charge a lot for them because they're not easy to grow, and if people are there to pick them, then they want them. So you can get your money's worth with peppers.
Yeah, at Rutgers we have also sold most of our peppers by the pound, both in the farmers market as well as to the hot pepper sauce industry. The hot pepper sauce industry prefer to have their supplies in maybe 20, 21 pound boxes, whereas in the farmers market we sell in maybe small baskets of 1 to 2 pounds per basket, which has worked very well on both situations.
I think also you should consider using containers sometimes, because what I found when I did my Padron pepper study is at that time they were selling for $17.95 a pound. I just checked the website actually earlier this afternoon. Now they're $29.95 a pound. So you say that to people and the people say, well, that's ridiculous. Nobody's going to pay that. And people pay it, and you have to get on a waiting list to get them, number one. But number two, you find that some of them are very lightweight. So what we did is when I test marketed them, I did 6 farm stands in pints. So it turned out that they were like $9, $6, and $5 a pound. Even the cheapest price there was 5 times better than what you get for most peppers. So we were still selling it for big money, but people would pay $3 or $2.50 for a nice pint of them. But 17 a pound, they wouldn't pay, but they were paying almost that amount. So.
Small package.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're set to take a 10-minute break. So we'll be back here at 10 after. There's still food outside. So if you think of more questions, we are going to have more question and answer session. Coming up after we talk about our SWOT analysis.
If you buy steaks, make sure you buy Honduran pine.
Yeah.
We're going to start in a few minutes, everybody.
I want it beginning of June. I can
Well,
do that.
no, you can't, well,
All right, guys, you ready?
Yeah, we're gonna start.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah.
Do I have to turn my
We'll get
mic
started
back on?
here.
Are we good?
Did you turn your mic off?
I didn't turn it off. We're good, right? Okay, great.
Our next question comes from the Eco Complex, and this is for Mr. Specka. How do you market your items?
So for the peppers, for marketing those, usually we rely a lot upon return customers and just spreading the word. So we have posted both on our Facebook page and at the farm crops that are coming up. So in terms of marketing them, that's really all we do. For the pick your own, for the road stand, we market peppers. We have signage on the road frontage for most of our product, but for the pick your own, it's reliant on people coming back for peppers. Picking something early in the season and then hearing about us having a wide variety of things to come back to pick. So getting the repeat customers is what you'd like to focus on for peppers.
Yeah, I just quickly add to Steve's contribution here. At Rutgers, we started marketing our peppers this past summer in the farmers market, as well as to the hot pepper sauce industry. And what the hot pepper sauce industry would like to do, they have actually engaged us to produce on contract for them. They make specific demand for certain types of habanero or cayenne, what quantity they would need. So we are working together with them to develop a program of production that will meet what they are asking for. So we want our growers to know that this is a real opportunity out there. The hot pepper sauce industry is an addition to the market opportunities that exist out there. We have identified maybe 2 or 3 pepper sauce producers, and they are already asking us to get committed to them to produce certain quantity. And this is very valuable to us in our entrepreneurship ag program at Rutgers. We are trying to use this to show some of our students who are interested in pursuing a career in agriculture that yes, there are opportunities for you to produce some of these items and actually make money. What we saw was that through the pepper sauce industry, we can actually make or break even, so to say, as quickly as possible, and then subsequently probably make some money. Because the pepper sauce industry is growing very, very rapidly in this part of the country. And the demand for certain types of pepper is increasing significantly. For example, for habanero, we sold last summer at $2.50 for certain types of habanero per pound. And one of the hot sauce industry peasants came around and said she was getting her own habanero for $7 per pound, $6 per pound. So we thought we were making good money. But she told us that the market is there for them to take as much of the habanero peppers that we produce. The other type that they're asking for now is the cayenne pepper. So habanero and cayenne peppers are some of the big ones in the hot pepper sauce industry.
Thanks, Albert. Our next question comes from Somerset. For somebody starting out, how many acres should they plant? Or how many plants should they put in the ground?
Starting out farming, or starting out growing peppers at an already existing farm, very different. If you're just starting farming, it's important to know where you're going to sell most of your stuff. You know, they don't just sell themselves right off the plant. Keep in mind that the cost of wholesaling peppers, very cheap. You're not going to make any money that way, especially not starting out. So I would not even consider wholesaling. You're going to want to try to do retail of some sort. For a scale, I would say, depending upon your labor and your demand for peppers, how many different varieties you're going to try to grow. Start small, but you know, it's always better to sell all the peppers that you have and say I'll grow more next year than to have 4 acres of bell peppers and then not be able to sell them all. Stagger your plantings. That's important because having them all come on at once when you're first starting, it's not good. You know, you'll get overwhelmed that way and then you'll get disheartened. So even if it's as simple as if you have a tray of transplants, plant half of them this week and hold the other half. It's not as good for the plants, but they'll hold up and plant the other half the next week. So, you know, for starting up, I would say don't grow over, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 plants of each variety that you choose to grow. I mean, that's a fair amount of peppers. So, you know, you have to determine, you know, where you're coming from first.
How many plants per acre do you plant?
10. Sorry.
Ask the question one more time.
The question was, how many plants per acre do you typically plant?
We plant around 10,000 pepper plants per acre on our plastic mulch system. We have 6 beds per block and 2 blocks per acre, so 12 beds total, about 600 feet long. Two rows of peppers per bed, straddling the drip tape, and about 18 inches between the pepper plants. So that's about 10,000 plants.
Yeah.
As a follow-up to that question, what are your post-harvest handling procedures?
Pepper is one of those crops that it'll hold up a little bit. So if you're going straight from the field to the display or wherever your point of sale is, that's always best. Straight. I know a lot of guys do wash their peppers for right out of the field, it can help them get the field heat out of the peppers. It's important because then if you don't get the heat of the sun off of the peppers, it'll degrade them.
That's right.
And they lose their turgid pressure. They do recommend that you can refrigerate peppers. Generally, wholesalers pack them into a 1 1/9 box, which is a cardboard wax box about that big. Make sure you don't crush them. You can crush a pepper and ruin it. But post-harvest, what I do, I pack them into like a reusable, stackable, lightweight bulb crate. And usually I put them in the shade. If they're going to be sold very soon, very shortly, put them in the shade. If they're going to be held for longer, refrigeration at, you don't want to put them in the coldest refrigerator. So maybe like a fridge that's like 45 degrees, whereas strawberries, apples, that'd be like closer to 32 degrees, and tomatoes would be like 64 degrees. So the middle range for peppers, not really cold.
Yes, we have had some experience with handling, post-harvest handling of some of the habanero peppers that we produce. We have on our list of potential habaneros that may be released to the growers. We have some of them that will last about 2 weeks after harvesting, if you keep them at room temperature where there is free flow of air. Some of them can last 2 good weeks before they start disintegrating. And if you have the opportunity of storing them cold storage at 45, 50 degrees, thereabout, they can last additional 2-3 weeks. So there are some that we have found to stay very firm. They retain their integrity for 4 to 5 weeks in cold storage. So they are, from that perspective, they are crops that you can easily handle without losing them quickly to spoilage, if you have the facilities to keep them fresh and maintaining their integrity for a considerable length of time. For people who have to ship their peppers over a long distance, this is an advantage for some of those habaneros. But it isn't all the habaneros that behave the same way. You need to know how your own type of habanero behaves. Some last very long, some intermediate, and some spoil quite quickly. The ones we will be releasing to our growers are those that have at least 2 to 3 weeks shelf life before they start disintegrating under ordinary conditions. And if they are in cold storage, they can stay for 4 to 5 weeks before they start losing their integrity.
When it comes to handling some of the hotter peppers, what do you recommend people do? Wear gloves?
For harvesting some of the habaneros, there are some of these habaneros that the way you harvest them, we recommend, first of all, that you harvest them with what we call the peduncle attached. That is the long stalk that holds the fruit. Harvest them with that peduncle instead of snapping them off that pedicel. The pedicel is where the fruit is resting. If you rip them off from that point, you are creating some kind of injury that may actually seep into your fingers, may make the fluid of the pepper seep to your finger, and it could be very hot. That is practically the hottest part of the pepper, that base, that lowest portion. That is where the heat is packed in most of the habaneros. Some of them have heat distributed all throughout the pepper, but most of them, those that are a little bit milder, would have their heat concentrated at that base. And if you harvest them bare hand, it's good to harvest them with the peduncle, if I can call them stick for general understanding. The stick that holds the fruit. Rip the fruit off from that stick. With that stick on. That way you are pretty safe, because the heat does not transmit to outside the skin. It's retained within the fruit. But if you snap it off and you allow that area to be exposed, that is where some of the heat can be going out and maybe touch your hands, your fingers, and some of them could be really hot. So we do recommend that to avoid some of those hazards, you should wear gloves when you harvest some of those hot habaneros, and probably some hot cayenne also. There are some that could easily rip off the peduncle. Some may not rip off quickly, so you should know the type of pepper you have, and that will guide you as to how much protective wear you should consider before going to the field.
Can I say one more thing along the lines of just safety in general? We feel that if you have customers on your farm, you're obliged probably to tell them that there are dangerously hot peppers on the farm, or that's everybody's opinion what hot is. I think I'd found that people who want hot peppers know what they're looking for, and people who don't really understand heat from hot peppers kind of don't really want to know what heat is like. They stay away from hot peppers, and they can be hard to recognize which ones are hot, so have them clearly labeled which ones are hot. Gloves are very cheap. If you're picking them, have your picking crew wearing gloves. Like Albert said, picking them from the stem, the peduncle. gloves, you got to be able to move fast when you're paying somebody to labor. So you can't have guys taking forever to pick, and make sure they change their gloves a lot. Throw them away in the garbage.
Perfect. We have a question from Kate May. What is your crop rotation for your pepper production?
Okay, so for peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, all in the same family. So we'll never follow pepper after tomato or eggplant. Generally, we grow a lot of brassica, beans, and cucurbit. So our raised beds, the plastic mulch generally is following either brassica or some sort of legume. Not that it's from a soil standpoint, but it's just reducing disease incidence. So there's a lot of residual that you will see in a field. I'd suggest if you're doing staggered plantings of peppers, if you can separate your plantings with some distance, or a barrier of some sort, whether that be a couple fields away, that'd be better. In case you lose control of a disease in one field, it won't spread as fast to a different field. So if you're gonna rotate, don't rotate any tomato, eggplant, or pepper after one another. Do something different. Beans, lettuce, corn, anything but those three.
Perfect. We have a question from the Eco Complex. What type of insurance do you carry for a UPIC operation?
So for the insurance, we are insured for a pick your own operation. We're very upfront with our insurance company as to what we do on our farm. They will insure us, but our umbrella policy is significantly larger than it would be for one on a wholesale farm or just a retail operation where you would be picking and then selling at your own road stand. So for the pick your own, like a lot of other ag tourism operations, insurance is a lot higher, but we feel that the benefits of the reduced labor cost of pick your own definitely worth it.
We have a question from Somerset County. Are stink bugs an issue or any other insect pests?
Well, insects are always an issue when you're growing a crop like peppers because of blemishing to the fruit itself. That's your sellable product. The plant can look terrible, but if the fruit's nice, then you're still going to make money. And the same is opposite too. If you have blemishes on your fruit from stink bug damage, I'm not really familiar what it would look like on a pepper, but I know a tomato, it gives it kind of a yellow mottling because the stink bug feeds by sticking its beak into the plant and sucking juice out, so it leaves a serious blemish. They're fairly easily controlled, I believe, stink bugs. If you have a good rotation, more pressing insects for peppers would be like a worm, like a borer into the pepper fruit itself. And we use a rotation of pesticides to keep those particular insects under control. It's good to have a few different pesticides in your arsenal to be able to use. Relying on one's a poor choice. I think that's perfect.
Another question from Somerset. This is for Ray, a Padron pepper seed supplier or other specialty seed suppliers. Where can they find that information?
Yeah, basically, I bought them from Johnny Slick Seed Head. There's a few other ones too that have them, but they're nothing special because they're non-hybrid, so they're not proprietary. So there's a number of companies that you can get them from. But again, given the fact that they're not hybrid, as I said in the video, the uniformity is less. There's more variability within the crop, and there's also better chance that there may be diseases in them. So it goes back to the whole adage. People sometimes say to me, well, I can save the seed, or somebody has this seed. That's generally not a good idea, because seeds are tested by commercial companies for the amounts of viruses and other things in them. So it's better to get certified seed than trying to save some of your own.
A follow-up would be Rutgers pepper seed, Albert.
Yes, I think I should use this opportunity to quickly talk about the pepper we plan to release at Rutgers Day. That will be April 29 this year. The pepper we are releasing is called pumpkin habanero. And the pumpkin habanero that we are releasing has some very unique characteristics. It's a small size pepper, but fruits very, very heavily. It's yellow in color, which makes it very attractive. It looks like a mini pumpkin. And a lot of people like the look. And what is even more important to me is the taste of the pepper. The skin has no heat, but the seed and the placenta, that is where you have some level of heat. So if you are a careful eater, you can eat, you start from the flesh, eat the flesh. By the time you now start getting to the placenta, you will start feeling some heat. But before then, you will have a very nice, crunchy, flavorful, sweet taste. Very, very nice tasting habanero, which the heat that is concentrated in the placenta and where the seed are located is about 50,000 heat units on the scale, on the Scoville heat unit scale. Now we have generated some seed which we plan to distribute between now and Rutgers Day through our Office of Communications. Some of you might know Cindy Robbins. Cindy Robbins and Anna Molinsky in the Office of the Director of Research in Martin Hall. Those are the two key people who are going to be helping us handle the distribution of seed. And we are also planning to get some seed in the hands of our county agents, extension agents throughout the state. So we have limited seed this year. We actually didn't think about this early enough at the time we were producing. Otherwise, we probably should have been able to produce more seed. We have just about 10,000 seed, which we are going to be distributing in packets of maybe 20 to 25 seed per packet, and we see how far this goes. We are also going to raise some seedlings I still don't know, the Office of the Director of Research will decide whether this will be sold or this will just be distributed to our growers. I do not have a decision on that, but some of the seed and the seedlings of our pumpkin habanero should be available by April 29 at the Rutgers Day.
We have a question for Mr. Spaka. If you could choose only one variety, what would be a customer favorite?
Well, I'll tell you this. You can never go wrong growing a bell pepper. Now, this is a specialty pepper class, so people know a bell pepper. They like how they taste, they like the size, and you don't have to cut all the seeds out of 50 small peppers. You have one big one. Now, bell pepper has kind of been bred to have a lot of resistance, and they kind of bred the flavor out of them, in my opinion. A suitable replacement would be a pimento pepper. Red pimento has a lot of nice flavor, no heat, suitable size. You don't have to fuss around with a million small peppers. You know, it's a pretty large pepper. So I would say a customer favorite would definitely be turning a bell pepper customer into a pimento pepper customer. That's a good idea.
From our experience at the farmers market in New Brunswick area, people love some of the jalapenos that we present there. Most of the time they prefer these jalapenos with smooth skin for a change. The Hispanics that come around still prefer the ones with cracked skin, but they are not as much in number as those who prefer the smooth skin jalapeno. And the heat level is also a factor that we use to sell some of these jalapenos. Some of them are really very mild, and some of them are practically heatless. So depending on the taste of the customers that come around, we do get demand for the jalapenos. Much less of habaneros, because people are simply scared when they hear habanero. It's a lot of heat, so they don't want to go there that much. But the people who know the habaneros, people from Mexico, people from Central America, other parts of Central America, they come around and they actually ask for habanero and nothing else. So you do need to know your customers, as Ray has said. If you have an idea of who you are targeting as your niche, that is going to determine the kind of peppers you will grow that would appeal to them.
Okay, thank you, Ray, Albert, and Steve. We really appreciate your time tonight and answering all those questions for us. I'm going to need your chair. Okay, hello everybody. I'm Meredith Melendez. I'm the county agent at Rutgers Cooperative Extension in Mercer County. And I'd like to encourage, for those of you that didn't have questions that were answered this evening, to please contact your local county agent and ask them production-specific questions. And make sure you're reading the materials that were provided to you as well. There's a lot of great information in the fact sheets and information that was given to you. So we're at the final portion of the program where we need you to complete the evaluation that's been provided to you. This information is very important for our grant funders. They like to see the feedback from the growers that have participated. It's an important way for us to show them that we did what we said we were going to do and hopefully receive some more funding in the future. So you'll see your survey is 2 pages. You've got an information sheet in the front that sort of explains the survey itself and legal requirements to make sure that we're keeping information confidential and gives you reasons for why we're asking for it. You'll see that you put your name at the top, and that's just to make sure we get the survey from everyone. Once we start looking at the data, the information that you've supplied to us, that will be kept confidential, so there won't be a way to really associate your answers to your name. So feel free to have at it and tell us your true opinions about the program. And the question number 2 on the survey, I'd just like to point out that you're answering that first box is what you've learned after attending this session, and the second box is before. So it's not necessarily chronological order. So just, it's interesting. Sometimes the responses we get from folks that think they're answering first before and then after. But thank you all for coming, and thank you for filling out the survey, and we hope to see you again at a future Ultra Niche Crop program.